have been.
Where did you dig up that old fossil?
Going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
That's no moon.
We're all fine here now, thank you. How are you?
Welcome to the Star Wars Nerds Podcast. I'm Dan Vadabonker.
And I'm Kenton Larson.
And Kenton, I've started my Christmas movie run. So similar to what I did in October, where I watched a horror movie every day for the month of October, I'm watching a Christmas movie every day this month, up until Christmas, up until the 25th. And then I'm going to watch New Year's Eve movies for that last week, any movie that takes place around New Year's Eve. So it's you know, if you have any suggestions for me, I know your favorite Christmas movie is The Empire Strikes Back.
I mean, I pulled that out of my butt a few years ago when we did that podcast, but now I pretty much have to say it every year or else people think I wasn't serious. So now I have to dig in. I have to dig in and say it's my favorite. But
you're going to start the new debate. It's not going to be Die Hard anymore. It's going to be Empire Strikes Back. That's the
better
new
debate.
Yes, exactly. Because I'm tired of the Die Hard debate, right?
Who cares?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, last night I watched a new movie. Actually, it's just came out on Crave TV here in Canada and HBO Max in the US, and it's called 8-Bit Christmas. Have you seen this one? Have you heard of this one at all?
I may have heard of it. I mean, maybe even seen a trailer, but remind me, what is it?
Neil Patrick Harris is the only name you would recognize.
Yes, I have seen the trailer.
Okay, he plays the grown-up dad who narrates the story, so he's not in it much. It's his voiceover, and he appears. It's kind of like The Princess Bride in that way, where there's the narration. But really what this movie is it's a Christmas story for the Nintendo generation. That's all it is. Instead of a BB gun, it's a Nintendo Entertainment System. Instead of the 40s, it's the 80s. It's the exact same thing. It's like, instead of, like, for us, you know, a Christmas Story came out in the 80s and it was about a previous generation's childhood, right? This came out now, but it is still about a previous generation's childhood. So it's very much like just a carbon copy almost of A Christmas Story.
Is it like a remake or?
No, not at all. And it's funny because there's nothing to do with The Christmas Story, nothing. But in the trailer, you know how
it was in the trailer. Even the trailer looks like it's a remake.
Well, in the trailer they say a new Christmas story. Like, they use that wording in the text is at one point in the trailer, and so yes, they're very deliberately saying this is inspired by A Christmas Story. It's not exactly the same, but there's some differences, and it is focused on the Nintendo Entertainment System, so it's a Nintendo video game system, so there's all kinds of jokes around that. It takes place in the 80s, so there are some fun nostalgic things around that as well, but overall, I don't think it's going to become a classic. I would certainly, you should watch it for fun. It's an enjoyable movie. There's some genuine laughs in there, but I don't know if it's going to be an annual favorite in my household.
So it was good. So you seem to be sort of saying it was good and bad.
Yeah, it was just going. I mean, maybe it's better if you go in there expecting a copy of Christmas Story. That's pretty much. I didn't know that's what it was when I went into it, and I'm like, oh, okay, I see what this is, and it's immediately apparent because they have like the main character, the annoying younger sibling, a bully who chases and beats him up, a ragtag group of buddies with all different characteristics and stuff like it's exact. You've seen this movie a million times. Not even A Christmas Story is not even that original in that respect. but this, because it's a Christmas movie and because it's marketed this way, I just think they're just going all in. And the dad is played by Steve Zahn, who. That makes me think of a Diary of a Wimpy Kid movie, which you probably have not seen those movies, but I'm very familiar with the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies.
I love Steve Zahn though.
He's good usually, but this is pretty much the same character he's playing in those. He's just like the annoying dad, and and again, it's he does these weird things around the house, just like the dad in A Christmas Story. Like, he's always messing with stuff, and or there's this gag where he's like, nobody gets to touch the cookies, and all. It's very, very similar. There's a lot of very similar beats and that kind of stuff in this. So.
Do they give any credit to the original Christmas Story?
Not that I can see. Not that I can tell.
No inspiration.
No, if anything,
writings of John Shepard.
I mean, I didn't see that unless John Shepard wrote a story about Nintendo. This seems to be sponsored by Nintendo. In the end, it really does seem to be about the Nintendo Entertainment System, which by 1988, I don't think was that high on anybody's Christmas wish list. Like, sure, it was something you wanted, but most people I knew had a Nintendo by 88, right?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I would have.
You're older, yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah, I'm older, and there was a period after I had television past its prime, and so there was a lot of stuff that came after that I was just like, nah. Like, I took a break.
Yep.
for a long stretch, and that was probably one of those breaks that I took.
Yeah.
And then there was
exactly.
that Sega Genesis time, and then there was
Yeah.
that, and you can kind of you can kind of go through all of those, but I don't remember wanting one.
This to me, this seems like a movie that was kind of created for a very specific purpose, marketed to a very specific audience, and I think because of that, it's not going to stand the test of time. Like I don't think it's going to be
No.
around. Like A Christmas Story is. A Christmas Story is a very different type of movie, despite the fact that it's very similar to this movie. But I think it's much better, and I will be
Even The
watching it this
Bully.
month. Oh, the
Even
bully!
The Bully.
The bully!
Yeah, that's the part of the trailer where I'm like, oh yeah, this is just like a wholesale remake.
Yeah. Although the kid that plays the bully is pretty funny, I gotta say that was he's good. Like there are some genuine laughs, there are some really funny parts of it. It's just the overall thing is very much like Christmas Story. So anyway.
I'm just gonna watch A Christmas Story.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
I'm gonna
just
keep
watch
it
that.
simple.
Um, the other movie, of course, we both watched this week was Star Wars, the original Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. As we continue our rewatch of the first 6 Star Wars films, this, of course, has been the best one so far, right? It's better than all the prequels, and your favorite one of the bunch, right?
Yes, it's like coming home again. And I thought, although this time I watched it, every time I watch the original Star Wars, I always think like, what's new? What's new? What can I bring to this that I might not have noticed before? And what I thought, maybe it's based on the supply chain issues, but I made a note that this movie shows the galaxy in recession after too much irrational exuberance and Clone War spending. Okay, that's my economic outlook on this. And I think Warren Buffett would look at episode 3 and then go, oh, episode 4, the depression. We've fallen into a depression after all that fighting and all those fancy spaceships that were all shined up. Now everything's like kind of in disrepair. So I thought that it's interesting to watch it in the order that we're watching it, because it does seem different. And it's in the look and tone from the prequels for sure.
Yeah, that was reverse engineered that way too, right? Because the what Star Wars brought to the table originally was I don't know if Star Wars pioneered this, but it was one of the early ones that did this. The dirty universe, the idea that everything is like kind of messy and this goes here, that goes there, and the whole idea that it's not like Star Trek where everything is exact and you have a capacitor for the thing and all that other stuff, right? And that's kind of, and everybody, like other movies like Alien took that and ran with it and did that. I think Star Wars was the first to do it. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe there's other ones that I'm not thinking of. Silent Running, maybe the one with Bruce Dern and the robots. That was kind of similar. Right,
Yeah,
that was a bit of a used universe. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
I thought of another one. Logan's Run. Sort of.
Logan, sort of. Yeah, it was a futuristic, but yes, you're right. Anyway, how did you watch this? Did you just watch it on Disney Plus?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't do that. I actually did something a little bit different. I watched this VHS tape that I have of Star Wars. Now, this one actually has the original cut of Star Wars on it. So this is a VHS tape. This is actually it's not like one of the originals or anything like that, although it does have the original artwork on the front. This was released in 1990, and actually it's funny because this VHS tape has an ad for the trilogy on the tape. So you can, it's great. I'm going to try and put some audio on the podcast, see if I can convert it somehow and put it on here. But it's great because it's this ad for, Star Wars, see the movie that blah, 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 and it's this big ad for it. And then it says, and then see Empire Strikes Back, and it goes into an ad for Empire Strikes Back, and then Return of the Jedi, and then it says you can buy each of them separately or get all 3 at this package, and then it shows like the trilogy coming together in a box set, and get the Making of Star Wars documentary it was like this whole thing about it, like it almost felt like this was the first time it was being offered as a box set because of the idea that you would just buy one of these and not buy the other ones, right? That's kind of a foreign concept now.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, I'd love to see that trailer.
I'll see if I can find a way to get it off of this VHS. That's why I love finding VHSs like this. Like I only got this because of the cover art, because I love this cover art. This is like the original. Like it doesn't look anything like the actors. Luke Skywalker's got a very muscular chest, and Leia's showing off a lot of leg there. The one thing about watching it like this, and of course this has got nothing, no additional scenes, no digital, like this is I think this is the theatrical version as far as I know. I don't know if anything changed between now and then. Maybe the sound was remastered or something like that, but there are no additional. So watching it this way, it actually kind of makes me not think of anything else. Like I don't think of the rest of the Star Wars universe that is happening. I just think of what's happening in the film, and it very much makes me feel like I was a kid watching this again, because this is the one that I would watch as a kid, right? This is the version that we loved. So I really like this having this version and being able to watch it.
Yeah, the probably the scenes that they added in 1997 have aged the worst. It, like, if you're looking for something that looks dated, it's that.
Yeah.
It's not the original stuff. It's the
this version here. This version here with the faces, this has some digital stuff added. This is when they started to add more like creatures, and Mos Eisley was getting bigger, and they started kind of digitally adding that kind of stuff. That was before the special edition. And then the special edition came in and like added a whole bunch of crap, and that is now the version of Star Wars that is out there.
No, but I think that one you have there is the 1997 one.
I don't think it is, because
I think it is.
Oh, is it really?
That's the first home release that has the updated special effects.
Oh, okay.
Like, oh, sorry, it was theaters 1997.
Yeah.
And then this followed, I think.
Yes, you're right. Okay.
Yeah.
But that, like, I mean, that kind of stuff. The thing is, like, this is all we can see now. We can't, unless you have this VHS tape or a version of this, you cannot see this version of Star Wars. I think Disney should re-release this version.
Actually, though, I have the DVDs that have the original.
Oh, okay, good.
Very good. There was one issue of the DVD that had the original, the original movie, and then the updated movie all in one package. So yes, it does exist on DVD.
Okay, there you go. But I think, honestly, I think that, I guess the next anniversary coming up is the 50th. I think they could have released like or let's see the original theatrical version of Star Wars remastered. And it's a great movie. You don't need all that other stuff. Standing alone, this is really good. There's a lot of really good stuff in here. And I think the other stuff distracts from some of the things that I completely forgot about that I noticed this time around.
Like what?
Like when right after Ben is killed, and they go to get on the Falcon, you hear Ben's voice saying, "Run, Luke, run." And I forgot that happened. I completely forgot about it and all the other chaos that goes on. And that to me, it means, oh crap, Ben is like immediately there. Like as a ghost, he is immediately there beside Luke helping him, right? He is not like, he knew that's the whole thing. The other thing I noticed is that fight, the lightsaber battle that I always trash between Obi-Wan and Vader, it's actually not bad. It's actually not as bad as I remember. But I think it's saved in the edit. Like you can tell the way that fight scene is edited together, it looks really good because of the way it's cut and the angles. And there's a lot of scenes in this movie that are cut together really well. You can tell that the editing, and I believe it was his wife, right? George's wife that edited the film.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, right. Marshall Lucas. And
it was just so well done. Like just some of those scenes. The other one that stands out to me is the escape from the Death Star when they're flying away and fighting off the TIE fighters, and the way that those quick cuts together and back and forth and that kind of stuff. It's so good.
Yeah, it's true that it shows like George Lucas at his best as a director, and there's a fun and excitement to it, and even and I made a note about the jokes are really good too.
Yes.
This one probably. Like the best Star Wars jokes, C-3PO and R2-D2 dashing through laser fire. R2-D2's response to the Jawa gun is still funny, where he just tips over and falls like pure gold.
My favorite response is the Jawa to Uncle Owen. Yeah. "Hey, what are you trying to push on me? What?" He's like, "What?"
I have a question about that in just a second.
Okay.
But I also can't get enough of Han Solo stalling in the detention block, where he's like, "We're all fine here. How are you?" Like,
yes.
That scene is just freaking great, and it doesn't matter how many times you watch it. That is hilarious, and it's I don't know, for some reason it's hilarious and cool, and they're trying to save the princess at the same time, and there's a lot going on, and it's just like the nice confluence of a bunch of different Star Wars things at once.
I would say that scene is where that movie really starts to feel like Star Wars. When you get all three principal actors together in the same room as they start to escape after they rescue her, that is when this becomes Star Wars, and it's awesome. It really is. Like the tone of the movie shifts at that point. It becomes becomes more exciting, more interesting, and the dynamic between the three of them is so good that whole time. Like I just love I mean, the lines, like the delivery isn't the greatest in some of them, it's too fast and that kind of stuff, but the lines are really good. Like some of those lines are really funny. You came in that thing, you're braver than I thought.
Yeah,
right?
aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
Right.
There's
Right.
classics.
Yeah.
There's classics in there. And even walking carpet and the banter when they're in the trash compactor. I mean, there's just so much. It's just so good. And what I always say is, because it always stands out to me, is the movie moves at in its own deliberate pace, but it all makes sense. But when you look at any single part of it, it's kind of weird. The progress from point A to point B is like really all over the place. Like to get them like to the throne room at the end from the spaceship at the beginning, there's a lot of things that need to happen. And it never feels as though it's like, first we got to do this, then we got to do that. Like Rogue One to me still has that. Now she's got to climb up a ladder. Then she's got to get the tape. Now she's got to go. Then there's a guy up there. Then she's going to get back down. Then like blah, blah, blah. In this Star Wars, the original, you don't ever get that feeling ever. You're being carried along a stream.
Well, you definitely get the feeling that this is just happening to them and it's just happening to you as well. Like it doesn't feel planned out. It feels very organic the way everything happens within the story. For sure. The other thing about watching it on the VHS is it does feel like a 70s movie. I don't know if it still feels that way watching it on Disney Plus when it's remastered. In some ways, like it depends on the dialogue, like some of the ways the acting. Peter Cushing is so good as Grand Moff Tarkin. Like he is just. That is acting from a different time, the way he portrays that villain, that is like classically trained acting, and he's so good at it. And I don't know that you would see that in any Star Wars movie anymore at all, right? Not even Rogue One, where they tried to recreate it in Rogue One.
The claymation Tarkin just didn't quite have the nuance.
No.
Not quite. So, okay, so you mentioned Owen Lars and the argument with the Jawas. Okay, so let me lay this on the table because I've never really thought this through. So let me think out loud here. So he's mad about R5D4 with the bad motivator, but Owen's brother is Anakin. Anakin built C-3PO, which he just bought from the Jawas. You could make the argument that, in fact, he's bought the droid he already owned, that the family already owned. That should be the main thing that gets him angry. Would he have no indication? So C-3PO's memories wipe, fine. Would Owen Lars have zero way of no indication whatsoever that this is the droid that his famous, notorious brother built? I guess they were never together in the
No, they were, because she met Shmi, his mother, who he built the droid for, was with his dad, right? They met, and he was already born at that point, right? Like, he is not Shmi's son, is he? Is he also Shmi's son? Maybe he is.
No, wait a sec. No, wait a sec. No, Anakin. Oh, wait a sec. They're stepbrothers because Anakin was born of midichlorians. There was no father.
It's right.
So
he's the stepbrother of Anakin and Klieg Lars. Right. So Klieg married Anakin's mother Shmi, and Owen is Klieg's son from a previous marriage. That's what it was. So they're stepbrothers. The droid would have been there. C-3PO would have been there at the same time as Shmi was there and Owen. So I mean, unless I know that protocol droids all kind of look the same.
No, Aunt Beru. Sorry, Aunt Beru.
Aunt Beru is Luke's aunt, right?
Right, but is she? I'm so confused.
That's okay.
He's married to Beru.
Owen is married to Beru, but Owen's dad was married to Shmi, which is Anakin's mom, right? Owen is Anakin's stepbrother.
Okay, from another marriage.
Yeah, like the Brady Bunch.
Okay, brother from another mother.
It's like the Star Wars Brady Bunch. You have Shmi. There's a story.
All right. Yeah, can you sing it to me so I understand this? I didn't, as you can tell, I didn't spend tons of time thinking about it. I was just kind of going, wait a sec.
I was
Didn't you own this droid?
Now I want to make up lyrics to a song that includes her getting killed by sand people. I have to figure that out.
And one day, this lady met some sand people, and they burned her to a crisp, or was it them?
No.
No, I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, that's interesting. And that's the thing, again, I'm not going to harp on this too much, but watching this version of it, I don't think of any of that stuff. I didn't even think of like any of the other movies, any of the other possibilities, anything else that was happening around this. And now when you watch it, of course, you do think of that stuff because so much has been built up now around this single movie. So much happens around it that you know of now that you can't help but think of it usually when you watch. So yeah, it's interesting stuff.
But that's true. So you try to see if the rest of it fits.
Yep.
And speaking of, boy, have Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen aged in the 19 years since we last saw them.
And now, Obi-Wan too.
Right, but has it been 19 years? Do I have that right?
Well, that's what it's supposed to be because they get there right as Luke is born, and I think he's 18 actually. Maybe he's 18 in the first movie. I mean, Leia's already a senator, right? So somehow she's already been able to be elected a senator at 18. Yeah. I don't know how that works. But, also, I mean, Padme was also elected queen somehow at 16, I think she is. How old is she in the first movie? Something like that.
You got me.
Young monarchs is the thing. They love their young monarchs in this world.
Actually, watching this made me think of the task that Obi-Wan TV series has to establish, has to do. And part of it is the aging process for Obi-Wan Kenobi and Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. There needs, I mean, of course, it's like, oh, the double Tatooine sun increases the aging process. Of course, it's going to be something like that. But we have to see like them being closer to transitioning to the characters that we know in A New Hope.
Yeah, and we saw a hint of that in Rebels. When we saw Obi-Wan in Rebels, it looked more like the Alec Guinness version than the Ewan McGregor.
That's true.
Now, one thing I want to know is, are we going to see Owen and it seemed to me that Luke knows Ben Kenobi. Like when he says, "Oh, maybe he means old Ben Kenobi," it feels like that's like somebody he's met before, right? That they have actually met,
or he knows about anyway.
Yeah, I'm just wondering. Do you think that Obi-Wan and Luke have met? Or is he just an old crazy man that people talk about in the town, or what? Like, I'm wondering what the relationship is there, and what we will see in the new series based on what we heard. Because you're right, they will create that new series based on what we hear in those scenes that we just watched in this movie will help inform what that series becomes.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah,
it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. But one of the things that bugged me about the prequels, like the continuity, I've sort of let go of some of that stuff. But at the time, it was things like that where I was like, "Wow!" Like Obi-Wan would look different, and couldn't you get the actors' age to line up properly, and sort of all of that stuff. But I also think people used to look older sooner, and so like Uncle Owen looked to me when I watched Star Wars originally, I was like, "This guy's 80," but like he's not. He's clearly not 80. But
okay, I just went to see.
Pretty old.
Yeah, he does. I don't know how old he actually was when that movie was made. Either. But it's also that our attitudes around actors have changed. Like we're used to actors playing their own ages at this point. Teen actors, child actors being better trained and being able to actually play roles suitable for their age. Because when we were younger, of course, all teenagers were played by 20-year-olds. And I'm not sure how old Mark Hamill was when this was shot, but he does not look like a teenager necessarily. Mark Hamill looks like a young man in his early 20s. Probably that's probably what he is at this point, right?
Yeah, probably.
So
he is kid-like,
right? And there's certainly
like a kid.
Oh yeah. Oh no, he does. The acting is great. Like the acting, it's funny because I used to think that was bad acting, but now I realize that it's excellent. Like it's him doing what he's supposed to be doing. Right. But yeah, I think that back then they didn't care as much about how actors looked the age that they should be. As far as the prequels go, I don't know that they ever expected to be back in this world when they were making the prequels, right? They just said, "Oh, let's get some actors to play young versions of Beru and Lars," and then that was it. So
yeah, that's exactly it. I made another note here about one of the things. You're the audio guy here. But one of the things that becomes more evident when I watched the original Star Wars is the post-production sound looping. So you've got like some oddly placed like sand people, or worse, sounds like it was dubbed in. There's something in here sounds dubbed in the trash compactor. And Also, there's a lot of British-looking guys whose voices sound like John Wayne, and you're
Right.
like, well, that's not that guy's. That guy's voice has been dubbed over.
I think they did that with everybody, right? All the
Yeah.
Imperials have British oh no, maybe they do have some of them still have British accents. I can't remember which ones, but yeah, they did dub a lot of it. And a lot of
Yeah,
the
you
fighter
can see
pilots
it.
too. A lot of the fighter pilots, of
Right.
course, most famously Wedge being dubbed.
Even the guy crashing into the gold leader crashing into the Death Star, and he goes, "Rah!" The scene where he screams, and it's like that doesn't really appear to be his scream, and there's some of that stuff, because of course all that stuff's gotten better. It's like watching an episode. I saw an episode of the Rockford Files, like a couple of years ago, and I was like, this editing is terrible, where he like closes the car door and you get the next scene and then he closes the car door again and things. And you're like, oh my God, they didn't even care. And part of it was that they're just, hey, they shot it, they put it together, like, no one's going to notice this part comes after the commercial or whatever. Who cares? And people can only watch it once. They'll never notice. And I think with Star Wars too, there's little things like that in there, where now, of course, people watch in slow motion, they take pictures of stuff that they notice and all of that stuff. So I noticed somebody recently pointed out in The Sopranos a continuity error, and I was like, I don't want to know. Like, I got to block it out. I can't let my entertainment be ruined by things like this. But I think also in 1977, it's so crazy now, but they didn't expect anyone to watch it more than once. And even home video was kind of like a niche thing. And if you wanted to watch it, buy it for your home VHS. That thing was like $150. You couldn't just go buy it.
Yeah, like this one that I have here, it came out in 1990. That's only like 7 years after the last movie came out. It's probably only like the second or third time that this actually been released on VHS at this point. And maybe the first time as a trilogy, but we did not, and I did not own this growing up. I did not have a copy of Star Wars as a kid. The only time I would ever see it is if it was on TV, or if we rented it. Occasionally we would rent it if we felt like watching it from the video store, but I didn't own it until I was old enough to buy my own copy of it as a teenager, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. What else? What else you got?
Okay, Darth Vader's Sith sense. His Sith sense. Okay, he never senses that his son Luke, his former best friend Obi-Wan, and the droid he built himself, C-3PO, are on his home planet of Tatooine. All right, let's just pause and think about that for a second. So here's something else that Obi-Wan series has to do. They have to explain, and I think probably it will. I think that's a bit of a loophole to kind, like, he's the most powerful Sith in the galaxy, and he doesn't even, none of that stuff ever comes together for him.
Right.
So I think there's got to be some indication of something that prevents him from going there, or that he's in the dark about, or he's doing something else at the time. And certainly Obi-Wan maiming him again a second time would account for that. It could account for that.
Or the Emperor could be hiding their presence from him, or hiding them, or something like that. Yeah, he does feel him once he's on the Death Star, and he does see, I feel the presence when I haven't feel something, that kind of thing. But again, no indication that, although Darth Vader at this point doesn't know that he has kids, right? He thinks they died. He thinks his one child died in childbirth when Padme died. So he doesn't know about their existence. I don't know how the Force works, or whether or not he could feel their presence even if he doesn't know they exist. I don't know if that's possible or not.
He does, but the thing is, he does it on Cloud City.
Is that what happens on Cloud City, or did he find out some other way? When he finds out the kid's name is Luke Skywalker, I guess he puts 2 and 2 together, right?
But on Cloud City, he just goes, Luke, and Luke is like, what? Huh? Like he can reach out and call.
Right.
To him.
You're right. He does.
But you can always explain it. Oh, his powers weren't strong enough in episode 4, etc. There's a million ways to explain it, but it's odd that the Rebel blockade runner stops above Tatooine, of all places, that R2-D2 and C-3PO land there. They've got a message for Ben Kenobi. Like, it's all planned. It was, I guess they imagined that was going to happen, right?
Well, that was the plan. By the way, I did watch Rogue One recently as well, so that is pretty fresh, and that is what happens in Rogue One. The plan is to send Leia to Tatooine to get Obi-Wan, and that's what they're doing. And
did they say that in the movie? I don't
Yes.
remember.
Yeah,
Did
they said we have.
they actually lay that out?
Yep, they do. They said I have a we need to get it to somebody who could do something with it or something like that. And he's like, I know somebody, I trust her with my life or whatever. Remember you see what's his name say that?
Jimmy Smith.
Yeah, Jimmy Smith says that. I trust her with my life. So he gives it to Leia, and it's CGI Leia, and then they, and then the real movie, the first movie, picks up like right away as soon as that scene ends in Rogue One. So, I don't know.
After we had that discussion about Jimmy Smith showing up and everything. So I'm flipping the channels last week, and there he is in the movie In the Heights. He's singing and dancing in the movie In the Heights. And I was like, oh my God, there he is again. And then I flipped to something else, and there he was again. Like we got to go we're gonna have to take an episode where you look at his IMDb and just like marvel. And probably what happened was for Rogue One, he was singing and dancing on some set next door, and they're like, hey, Smith, we need you over on, and he walked in and went and did his lines or whatever. It was like, peace out, and goes back to the next, to the next one. So that guy gets around, and I did like seeing him in Rogue One. I have to say, I like that scene, but maybe I was so excited to see him, I don't remember what he said. That's the problem.
There's a couple of scenes where he shows up, and that was the plan. So they do go to Tatooine. That is initially the plan. I don't think Leia has any idea that Luke is there, and all she's concerned about is seeing Obi-Wan. Right. I can't assume that she's met Obi-Wan at all. Do you think we're going to see Leia at all in the new series, or is that going to be?
Oh, that'd be cool.
That
didn't even occur to me.
We saw her in Rebels. She did show up early in Rebels as a teenager. It was like 14-year-old Leia or something like that in that series. So yeah, we could see a young Leia.
I'm all for it. I just assume. I think we got to get the Luke Skywalker glamour shot from a distance. I think that's
which still looks good. I mean, the VHS version, of course, the sound's going to be iffy, and I'm blown away by the fact that this 30-year-old tape still works. Look, I keep harping on it, but that it's still good sound. It's still good. Like everything is still great about the movie. It's not like surround sound or whatever, but it's still fine. So,
I have one more question for you about the film. Was he or was he not? Was Jar Jar on Alderaan when Alderaan blew up?
How would he be there? What is the logic that would put him there?
He is a senator. That's where Leia was hanging out. That's where where Jimmy Smits was.
I don't think so. I think he would have been on Coruscant, wouldn't he? He was always on Coruscant after it's either Naboo or Coruscant. Him again. Well, we never saw him after the third movie, but I think is that people are saying that he's on Alderaan, so he's dead now?
That's always been speculation, but I mean, there's no I looked closely at the planet blowing up, and I didn't see his corpse flying around anywhere. Hey, they could add that in a future edition.
Again, I love that scene. Love that scene. You're far too trusting. I mean, he's so good. It's such a good scene. Yeah. And then they blow up her planet. But
that's also got one of my favorite overseen bloopers, which is when Leia doesn't know that Vader's behind her, and she backs up and bumps into him.
Oh yeah.
But then again, I guess it's not you could say Leia didn't know, the character didn't know, or whatever. But I do think it does look like the actor didn't know.
Well, yeah, and it's just like the stormtrooper bumping his head as he goes into the room, like those things. It's funny that they leave those things in; those are little things they leave in there. But yet they change all this other stuff. So anyway,
it's because they can write fan fiction around them.
That's right.
That's why. The story of the stormtrooper who couldn't see the door, a novel by Timothy Zahn.
Great. That's the next trilogy. That's what. Yeah, that's what what's his name is working on.
By the way, do you think I would love it if they made those Heir to the Empire movies into something finished? And there is enough time. But you couldn't make it the same way. That's the problem. There's enough time between the end of Return of the Jedi and the beginning of Force Awakens to do a trilogy.
Oh, sure.
That time period, but you couldn't tell the same story.
Well, you'd have to find new actors to play the roles because Luke isn't the right age to play. And I don't know if we want a full movie of him CGI'd over,
Well, it could be based in that time period, but not feature those characters. And part of what I think Filoni and Favreau are doing right now is setting up all the stuff that happens in that time period with the mention of Thrawn, the Ahsoka. We're probably going to get in the Ahsoka series, we'll see Ezra. We'll see Jason Schwartzman as Ezra for the first time. His wry, sardonic, sarcastic take on Ezra. I don't know. I think that there's a possibility, however remote it might be, that's what Favreau is setting up in Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, and who knows what else.
Exactly.
This could very easily come together, not in a movie, but a trilogy.
Or another series. I mean, they could just keep doing series, right? They seem to really enjoy those. Disney's big on the series right now. I saw, have you seen Shang-Chi yet in the 10 Rings?
Yes.
What'd you think?
So. I mean, I like him.
Yeah, he's great.
I like the actor. I like this, he brings a lot of delight to his performance. I like Aquafina. Even though her name is a brand name and I'm uncomfortable saying it.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. That's right. Not a podcast sponsor. But I thought the story was a little.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
And I thought the ending in particular was a bit of a slog. I was kind of hoping it was going to take us somewhere different, but no, we have to get CGI dragons flying around. And we have to learn archery in a day.
That was great. It's like
dragons. Yeah.
The pitch meeting on that was like, oh, I have to learn archery so my character has something to do now because
that's right.
that person didn't have anything to do. Anyway, the only reason I mentioned him is because apparently he's a big Star Wars fan. I saw him on Hot Ones. He was on Hot Ones recently doing that Hot Wing thing, and they talked about Star Wars, and he went on, like, without even being prompted, Simu Liu went on a huge rant about the prequels and he just like, and it was exactly something out of this podcast. Actually the kind of conversation we would have. So he is legit. And I'm like, well, this guy, he's already got it in with Disney. He's already got a role in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's nothing to say he can't be in the next Star Wars movie. And I think he should start a campaign now, because he got into MCU through a tweet, right? He tweeted at Marvel. That was the thing.
He's on Kim's Convenience, and Kim is in Star Wars.
Kim is in Star Wars. That's right.
Like, that's not hard. I mean, you have to lobby one dude.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, that's it. Tell your friend that you want to be on that show with him.
Yeah.
And he tells Filoni. Next thing you know, you're with Trapper John MD fighting space spiders.
That Rangers, is that the one that got canceled? The Rangers in the New Republic? Are they still doing that? Okay, maybe they can bring it back. Bring it back with him in it.
I don't. Yeah, I didn't see any reason to not do that series. You don't have to have Cara Dune in there. Who cares? Either way, I want it to be the Bill Burr show, because they pretty much set it up, right? That he could be on that. But Bill Burr, Kim's Convenience. I'm sorry, I don't know any actors' names except
I know.
Burr. And Shang-Chi, you bring them all together on a Rangers of the New Republic. That would be amazing.
I would love
that show.
Yeah, that's great. I think he needs to be in the Star Wars universe. Any final thoughts on Star Wars before we move on?
What is your rating?
Oh God, this is so good. I mean, and I'm going to include the fact that I watched it on the VHS tape, because I think that's a different experience, and I'm going to give it 7 out of 10. Oh, we got to do it out of 5, right? So no, I've got to give it a 3.5 out of 5.
I give it 5 out of 5 stars. It's for me the best Star Wars movie.
Okay.
I cannot see. I say there's flaws in it. I don't care. I still think there's something about, and plus, not to mention, I give it bonus marks for even just being like, it's like teleporting to childhood for me to watch it. It's got an element to it that none of the other films have, except maybe a little bit of The Empire Strikes Back. But the other ones just don't quite get me there. But this one always does. Every time I watch it, I remember being in the theater and even being like, ooh, R2-D2's in some canyons and what's going on? Like every time I watch it, I remember that experience.
That's great.
So 5. I got to give it a 5.
Of course. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Star Wars Nerds. I'm Dan Vadabonker.
I'm Kenton Larson. Don't let the Force hit you in the ass.
Now I am the master.
I'm taking an awful risk, Vader. This had better work.
Where did you dig up that old fossil?